Había una vez una princesita. Ella era feliz en su jardín porque su mamá era la reina. Y su padre era un gran rey. Era amable. A veces era feliz, pero otras veces era bien feroz. Solo Dios era más poderoso.
Corpus Domini Nostri, Jesu Christi Vita Materna. Amen.
Do I have a little visitor? Those are lovely flowers. Who are they for?
For you, Your Grace.
Very kind. Do you know what they are?
Mistress Sarah says they're snowdrops.
Show me.
La princesita era muy feliz porque su padre la amaba. Él estaba muy orgulloso de ella.
Prettier than you.
Prettier than you.
Prettier than me. Stronger than me.
Él la llamaba mi pedacito de Inglaterra y mi pedacito de España. Pero el rey estaba bravo porque no tenía un hijo. Él dijo que una niña no era suficiente, que necesitaba un niño. Él dijo que era la culpa de la reina, pero no lo era. Entonces el rey encontró otra reina. Pero ella no era una reina de verdad. Era una reina mala. El rey quería casarse con la reina mala, pero el papá en Roma dijo que no. Entonces el rey se puso bien bravo.
Seem to be a few problems here, Thomas. A few things I can't quite grasp. Here we have the Pope. He's saying how I can do this, and I can't do that. Who is the Pope?
He is the head of the church.
Is he the King of England?
La gente decía que el rey no estaba casado con la reina buena. Pero no era cierto. No era cierto.
Are you the Pope to judge in the matter? For one doctor who can say our marriage is void, I can give you 1,000 that can say it is valid. Our marriage was made in heaven, and you will never destroy it.
I will have my wife! I will have my wife. I will have my wife.
La reina buena ya no era feliz. ¿Y la princesita? Tampoco fue feliz nunca más.
It was very confusing for us because we sort of felt it was like putting himself above God. How could he do that?
A lot of people disagreed with what he was doing, and they paid a heavy price. People like Bishop of Rochester, Fisher, his name, and Thomas More, of course. You know, he was famous. But there were a lot of other people who weren't quite so famous who paid the same price for disagreeing or speaking out against what Henry was doing at that time, and it was not a happy time.
So much blood. Poor little Mary. Not so little now. Her father's divorce meant she was stripped of her title. No longer a princess, just Lady Mary, the King's daughter. That meant she was a bastard, basically.
She was a princess? How dare you call me a bastard? I'm a princess. I'll never accept that.
And she also didn't accept the new religion either. She was vehemently against it.
It was one church for her, one pure, holy Catholic church, forever and for always. A new church? Heresy. And Anne, she gave him a son all right. A dead one.
Well, of course, there were rumours about what she'd been getting up to. You know, affairs. Well, I'm not saying whether it's true or not, I'm just repeating what I've heard, but... well, it gave the king the perfect excuse, didn't it, to get rid of her?
Whatever they said about her, she went to her death bravely.
You'd have thought with Anne Boleyn out the way that it would have been easier for Mary, but it wasn't. Of course, she didn't make it easy for herself. She still thought that she was the king's rightful heir. And that meant that all those people who didn't believe in the new church saw her as a figurehead for their rebellion.
My own daughter, Cromwell. She defies me. They tell me she still hears Mass. While she goes on with this delusion, we'll have every rebel and traitor putting her up as the Queen. Better sort it out. Otherwise, there will be consequences. Consequences, Cromwell. Consequences? I'm sure you get my drift.
My dearest Father and Sovereign Lord, I most humbly prostrate myself before your noble feet, your most obedient subject and humble child, who hath committed her soul only to God, and her body to be ordered in this world as it shall stand in your pleasure. I do, and will submit me in all things to your goodness and pleasure.
I will submit me in all things, except the thing he wanted most. She wouldn't say she was a bastard. She was a princess, the king's truly begotten daughter.
That you, my lady, by your own folly and fantasy, show your contempt for God, for your father and his laws.
I am here to express the King's severe displeasure at your continued obstinacy towards him, your disobedience of his laws, such gross disobedience, that the King begins to think you are no longer his daughter, but some monster of nature. However, the King is prepared to show you mercy and to give you one last chance. For myself, I cannot understand why the King is so lenient towards you, so tolerant. If you were my daughter, do you know what I'd do to you? Do you? I would knock your head against that wall until it became as soft as a baked apple.
You can't talk to her like that.
Do you know who you're talking to? Do you know what we can do to you?
Anyway, the King, in his infinite tolerance, is prepared to show you mercy, on condition that you recognize him as your sovereign.
Yes, of course.
You will recognize him as your sovereign, and you will submit to his laws. In particular, you will acknowledge the King as the supreme head of the church.
I can't do that.
You will utterly refuse that the Bishop of Rome has any authority in this kingdom.
No.
And you will acknowledge that your mother's marriage to the King was by God's law and man's law, incestuous and unlawful.
No, I can't
You
do
will sign
that.
the articles to that effect.
No.
You will sign the articles to that effect.
No, I can't do that.
You will sign! For if you do not, the consequences will be far worse than you could possibly imagine.
It's a boy! It's a boy!
Once Edward was born, everyone was very relieved.
I think maybe people were sort of relieved. Oh, at last, a male heir. That's what he wanted. He'd be happy now for a while, won't he?
Even Mary, really, life got easier for her. And she was actually acknowledged to be second in line to the throne by Henry.
The old boy wasn't getting any younger, of course. The wages of sin are paid out equally to the high and the low.
Long live the king!
Being so young, the boy king was under the protection of the council. Now there was a fine group of gentlemen. Somerset, who set himself up as Lord Protector. And then there was Thomas Cranmer, Archbishop of Canterbury. The new Pope, you could say.
At least with the old king, all he wanted to do was get the Pope out of the way. But this was new learning, and everybody had to change. And it was all the old ways, the Mass and everything else that we were allowed to keep with the old king was all swept aside.
The Mass is an idolatrous sacrifice.
Steeped in superstition and heresy.
An abomination.
An abomination.
John Dudley, Earl of Warwick, later Lord Northumberland. Ambitious and a Catholic. Oh, no, he used to be. He changed.
From henceforth, the supper of the Lord and the Holy Communion, commonly called the Mass, is to be said in English, to be said aloud and clearly instead of in secret murmurings. Away with the holy water and the holy bread, the palm crosses and the Candlemas candles, ashes and creeping to the cross. the foul vapours wafting to the canopy of heaven, as if in propitiation of some heathen Baal. Away with the washings, crossings, shriftings, blessings, pilgrimages, purgatory and relics, the lights and bells that go with funerals, and all the other baggage of popery.
People talk about the new learning is what God wants, but how do they know what God wants? I liked the old ways. Salt and oil at christenings, Candlemas, and the smell of incense. The sound of the bells ringing out at All Hallows all through the night. So beautiful.
Well, Mary was still sticking by her conscience. She was still a Catholic, and still a thorn in the side of the council.
She's breaking the law. She hears Mass publicly with her servants, and people are flocking from miles around to join her.
If she stays where she is, away from London, she can do no harm. Let her stew.
Make her the focus for every papist rebel in England. You know what's happened in Devon and Cornwall. We must act.
What do you suggest we do? Burn her as a heretic?
Mass is either God or the devil. If it's God, then we should all go to Mass.
It wasn't long ago you were taking Mass.
Sickly little brat. We have a heretic about one bloody cold away from the throne.
To do with the observance of the law, a law which you and your servants are breaking by taking part in acts of worship. It's contrary to the king's wishes.
But the king is just a child. How can he know his own mind?
That's why he has wise counsellors to advise him.
Oh, you call them wise? The old ways were good enough for them when my father was alive, and now it seems their wisdom is telling them something different.
Nevertheless, my lady, we've been sent by the council to remind you that the king's law on the observance of Mass applies to everyone.
But I'm only doing what I've done since I was a child. What my father did. And his father before him.
Be that as it may, my lady, but these practices are forbidden.
Who are you to tell me what is forbidden?
No, no, my lady, it's not us. It's the law. It's the king and the council.
He's right, my lady. It's our duty to inform you that if you do not cease these acts of worship, there will be serious consequences.
Well, so be it. I'd rather put my head on the block than betray my God. Candlemas. Yes. I remember going to Candlemas with you, John DeLinde. We took the bread together. You must remember.
Yes, I do, my lady. Very well. But times have changed.
Yes. Times have changed. I must ask you, gentlemen, to excuse me. It is time for me to go to prayer. Would you care to join me? not trusted that your majesty would have suffered me, your poor humble sister and beadswoman, to have used the accustomed mass, which the king, your father and mine, with all his predecessors evermore used.
With all his predecessors evermore used. Wherein also I have been brought up from my youth, and thereto my conscience doth not only bind...
Conscience? A pox on her bloody conscience!
My conscience doth not only bind me, which by no means will suffer me to think one thing and do another, but the promise made to the Emperor by way of assurance...
And just who does this Emperor think he is? The King of England?
No, any more than you are.
We have heretics coming from miles around to hear Mass with her. They call her Your Grace. Did you know that? We are facing open rebellion.
There's a few poor misguided people.
It's a plot. And if we let it go any longer, we will make her a focus for every rebel, heretic and traitor in the country.
What are we to do? We imprison a priest, another takes his place. Brave men.
The time for playing games is over. We must root this out. Destroy it. The princess must be made to see the danger that she's in. Not very good for her health. This kind of thing can bring on a sudden decline. Anything could happen. Her heart might not survive the strain. Or the food. She's in fragile health. She's prey to sickness. Everyone knows if you're weak. You eat something that disagrees with you, it can be enough to push you over into an irreversible downward spiral.
Si es como mataron a mi madre. You've brought me here to instruct me in the law. It is a very strange law these days. For my servants are threatened. My own person is threatened. I do observe the law. My father's law. How many of you are here today because of my father? Now he is dead, you can contradict him. You wouldn't have dared while he was living.
Well, times have changed, my lady.
Oh yes, times have changed. You didn't tell me. I barely recognize my own country, so changed it is. A place where the treasures of the church are burned or stolen. The saints are mocked. We may no longer hear confession, nor take the bread, because that is a crime. And the real crime is to forbid these things to true believers.
This is heresy.
God knows who the heretics are.
Yes, my lady. He does.
You can take everything. You can take everything on earth that I own. You can take my birthright. You can take my title. For God knows what my rightful title is. But you cannot take my soul. You cannot take my God. I die first.
You're in pain, my lady.
All my life is pain. Give this to the king. Tell him he is my own dear brother, and I will obey him in everything. Except that which takes away my soul.
We've come to hear Mass, Your Grace.
Poor Mary. Nothing to hope for while the heretics ruled the roost. But then, hope can spring up in the unlikeliest places.
Help!
All he had to do was stay alive, and he couldn't even do that.
She won't do it! Ah! Ah!
There was all these rumours going around as to whether the king was dead or not. I mean, we didn't know whether he was. And then, of course, light begins to dawn. We realise, of course, that it's Northumberland that's behind all this. He wants to keep power, so he's going to put Lady Jane on the throne, his daughter-in-law.
Long live the Queen! Long live the Queen!
It's ridiculous. Who is this person? It should be Mary.
I mean, Mary was the next in line, wasn't she? She was the king's daughter, she was a Tudor.
Did he really think that he could get away with it? He was trying to destroy the royal line of England. We all knew that Mary was the rightful queen.
Long live the Queen!
Long live the Queen!
I was one of Northumberland's men, me and 3,000 others. And we were all told to muster up at Tothill Fields to bring in the Lady Mary. And as we set off out of London, and there was a strange feeling in the air. When people come out to look at us, they weren't wishing us Godspeed. They were sort of staring at us blankly, as if you know, wondering what we were doing, questioning what we were doing.
Well, there were many important gentlemen who were coming to support the Queen. Sir John Morden, Sir Henry Bedingfield, and many other gentlemen. But it wasn't just them, you see. There were people from all over the countryside, the common people, who were there ready to fight, willing to support the Queen. And we were there shouting, "God save the Queen!" And we all knew which Queen that was.
People who'd sworn to be loyal to Northumberland and to the cause disappeared. And people that were meant to be taking her into custody were going over to her side, instead begging her for pardon. Ah, it's hopeless.
There were people everywhere, just going down, just to see what was going on.
Loyal subjects, the Crown of England, I can announce that Princess Mary is now, on this day, Queen of England!
Long live the Queen!
Long live the Queen!
When I think about the miracle that's happened, I feel so humble. I can see now what it was you were doing. It was a test of my strength. I must ask you to forgive me for doubting you. You've put your trust in me, and I will not let you down. I shall make England clean again and bright.
Northumberland got arrested. Well, he was due for the chop and he got it.
Well, Mary was lenient with the others, but she couldn't be for him. I heard that he even became a Catholic again to try and save his skin. But that didn't save him, nor should it have done.
I believe in one God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and of all things visible and invisible, and in one Lord, Jesus Christ.
We saw him get chopped in the morning, then went down to the Aldgate for a picnic in the afternoon. Made it a really nice day out.
I believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. I acknowledge one baptism for the remission of sin. I look to the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. Amen.
Queen Mary is restored as the rightful heir of Henry, the late king. All laws banning the hearing of Mass are repealed. The Holy Father in Rome is restored as the rightful head of the Church in England. It is now illegal to attend the so-called Protestant service.
When that new learning came in, our old way was wrong. That was the devil. So we worship in the new way. And now that's wrong. And so now we're back to worshipping in the old way.
It's all very confusing if you ask me. I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't make a lot of difference to the likes of me. We're just trying to survive, make a living, you know.
All the powerful people, of course, they change over again, don't they? But do they do it for a love of God, or do they do it to keep their power? Didn't include them giving back all the lands they'd stolen from the church. And of course there was the priests. I mean, now they become Catholic again, they had to give up their wives. Didn't stop them paying their ex-wives a little visit now and again.
We know where you've been!
Well, I think she thought that she'd just be able to change everything back to the way it was.
I think everybody would have been happy to go back to the old ways with the church. If she hadn't have married that Spaniard, everything would have probably been okay.
Well, you know, we were all terribly worried about getting involved with a Spaniard, dragging us off into some foreign war and all sorts of nonsense, taking all our money. I mean, we weren't happy about it.
Now, Reynard, he was a wily character. He was the ambassador to the Holy Roman Empire, and he was trying to convince her to marry Philip. Well, you know, she was the daughter of Spain. Her mother was Spanish, so why wouldn't she like the idea?
But a young prince will want a young bride. I am too old.
No. No. Some people, however young, lack spirit and seem old, whereas a more mature person may have the spirit of the young and the beautiful. And of course, he sees this as a great opportunity.
He does?
Not only would this be a wonderful alliance between England and Spain, but also personally. He views this prospect with a great excitement.
You know, they say he's very handsome.
You shouldn't say these things.
But what if Renard is right? It is the perfect match. And the perfect union between England and Spain. And we would have an heir.
It's impossible. It's impossible. But if only it could be true.
God gave you your throne. Surely he'll give you a boy.
Según de los planes de su padre, es definitivamente un buen casamiento. Inglaterra sería un valioso aliado contra Francia. Y una heredera ayudaría a mantener Inglaterra como un país católico.
Sí, sí, sí. ¿Y qué edad tiene la María?
Tiene 37.
No es exactamente una chica. De Mona me dicen que no tiene mucho.
Es una mujer muy sincera, honesta y muy devota.
Bueno.
Su padre está muy interesado de organizar este casamiento.
Sí, pero no será mi padre que tendrá que acostarse con ella.
Y recuerde el premio que aporta este matrimonio. Inglaterra.
La Inglaterra. A mí me da igual la Inglaterra. Está llena de lluvia y de piratas borrachos. Pero, ¿qué hacer ahora?
Un intercambio de regalos será organizado.
Vale.
It's impossible.
It is possible. It is.
Oh, this isn't me.
What do you mean?
Happiness. It's strange to me. I never thought I would be happy. That's for other people. Now I'm almost afraid to be happy.
Bloody Spain! Sir Thomas Wyatt. He was a gentleman. And he was dead set against her marrying a Spaniard.
She has been deceived by the Spaniard, whose only purpose is to turn all Englishmen into his slaves.
Well, we heard that Wyatt had reached Southwark, and he had about 3,000 men with him. Well, it was a question of whether London would join him.
When we heard the rebel army were making their approach that night, the whole palace was thrown into chaos.
I was part of Our Grace's bodyguard. I noticed the members of her council huddled in corners, muttering, hedging their bets as to which would be the winning side.
And in the middle of all this, Mary was calm and brave. She could have escaped.
And we all of us took strength from her that night. That was the night she really gained my respect.
And then we heard that the Queen was going to make a speech at Guildhall. So we all went down there. I mean, there were hundreds of people there.
Will you defend me against these traitors and these rebels? For I do say to you now that I have a mind to stay, live and die with you.
And Mary just talked to us straight. She said if we went against the rebels, she'd be there with us.
She said like we were her children and she was our mother, not that she had children of her own, and that she would protect us.
If we stand together, I know we shall prevail. And then we can live in freedom, in the one true faith.
When the rebellion was crushed, suddenly there were gibbets all over London and Kent.
There was a real sense of an atmosphere that I will not put up with anybody trying to walk over me anymore. That's it. I've had enough.
She was known, if you like, for her leniency, but after that rebellion, something changed and she'd become harder.
What a wonderful day it was. There was music, there was dancing, there was more food than you could ever imagine.
Mary looked beautiful. He was very handsome, despite being a Spaniard. And they looked very happy.
María también estaba muy elegante, ella, un vestido muy bonito, pero, en fin, ya se sabe lo que se dice, ¿no? Que la mona, aunque se vista de seda, en mona se queda.
lo que hago por España. Viene aquí, princesita.
Sabes que soy virgen.
La Virgen María.
And we heard that she was going to have a baby.
And it all seemed to fit so well. After she'd faced down a rebellion, she'd now have an heir, she'd be able to continue the Catholic faith.
Dear Lord, I must ask you to forgive me. It seems that I am always doubting you. And I know you have a plan for me. You have given me a sign.
We were all so excited at the news. Noble ladies came to court to be with Mary, and we were told the happy event would be in May.
But May came, and there was no baby. May turned to June, and still no sign of a child.
Oh, I'm sure I felt it move.
By July, it was just another mystery, another sadness.
It just wasn't possible. It's like, well, apparently she looked pregnant, but there was no baby.
Así que poco a poco se fue vaciando los aposentos, se fueron las cortesanas, se fueron las nobles, se llevaron la cuna, se quedó todo como muy vacío. En fin, fue una historia muy extraña, unos meses muy tensos, pero sobre todo muy triste. Muy triste, sí.
Mary was too old. Too old.
Sí, habían rumores de que había tenido un chiquillo de que finalmente había tenido el chiquillo, pero que había salido con 2 cabezas. Había otro rumor que decía que incluso tenía cara de mono.
Todo eso es una farsa. Lo he intentado. He intentado vivir aquí. Yo mismo he intentado beber cerveza inglesa.
¿Y cómo es?
Sabe meado.
Things just got worse after that. We had a terrible summer. The summer storms were the worst I can remember. The harvest failed, and the same thing happened for the next 2 summers, so there was very little food about.
And what most people said was it was God taking it out on Queen Mary, marrying the Spaniard.
To cap it all, we lost Calais to the French. And Mary took that very badly. Well, we all took it very badly.
It was around that time that the burning started. It was so out of character. I don't think that she was cruel like that, but she had to have something to blame. All the things that had gone wrong in her life. So she blamed the new learning.
I've been wrong in thinking of my own happiness. I can feel your anger. It is in your silence. I will prove myself worthy. I shall clean this country of the curse of heresy.
I knew this man called John Miller. Nice, gentle man. And then suddenly they said he was in league with the devil.
Even now it's not too late. Accept the bread and wine as the body and blood of Christ.
No, I can't. I have to follow my faith, whatever the danger.
You must accept the Mass.
I don't recognise your Mass. Your Mass is heresy.
Oh, please just sign it. Please, John, please don't leave me. Just give them what they want, please. Please, just give them what they want.
It was been...
Why did she have to be so cruel? Why not just let God punish them?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. But deliver us from evil. Amen.
I have to say I admired them. They were so brave. I mean, I know they were heretics, but they seemed to go willingly to their death.
If God's kind, would he mind how we worship him? Would it really matter to him? I don't think it would. Not the God that I believe in.
Have I pleased you?
If she'd have had an heir, a boy, then England would have stayed Catholic. We wouldn't have gone to war with Spain. We'd have been part of Spain. She was always true to her conscience, which meant she wasn't wily enough or ambitious enough to succeed. She became a victim, if you like. She was just hated by everybody. Was she any crueler than, well, certainly not crueler than her father?
We have a new queen. She's young, she's strong, she's beautiful, and she's a Protestant. All the things that Mary wasn't. But Elizabeth the heroine, Mary the villain,